Welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings podcast with Ken Smyers and Eric Stromquist. Control Talk Now, your source for control news you can use. And now, here is Eric.
Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to Control Talk Now, your smart buildings video cast, and for you listeners out there, podcast for the week ending July 12th, 2015. Again, my name is Eric Stromquist. I am joined by my co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, the one, the only, and I mean only, Kenny Smyers from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Kenny, welcome to the show, Big Dog.
Thank you very much, Eric. I love the excitement. It's good to be back. We missed a week because of the holidays and travels, but now we're back in the saddle, and we've got a great show with a ton of very important industry information, updates, product releases, and most importantly, people from around the world talking about control trends in their parts of the world that we share with the control trends community. So we make it a very interesting show.
We really do, and it's good stuff. We thank all our listeners and viewers out there. Kenny, it's kind of interesting, looking at the stats for a lot of people like to video cast, and believe it or not, we got more podcast listeners than video casters. So for virtually every view that we have on the video cast, we have between 4 and 5 on the podcast. So for our podcast listeners out there, at some point in time, you got to check the video out because you realize just how handsome the man, the myth, the legend is. And, you women might not be able to handle it, so maybe you want to keep with the podcast. But Kenny, it was a big week. Hope you had a good 4th of July.
I did. Thank you.
Good.
How about you? What'd y'all do?
Family stuff, man. Got the 2 little kids. We just took it easy, and Axel B and Evie G. So we lit some sparklers up for them, and they both got a big kick out of that. But just kind of taking it easy, man. But we got some catching up to do, right, Big Dog?
We sure do, Eric. We'll just kind of go briefly through them. There's a lot of, just kind of gee whiz, but not really gee whiz, because we start with the Department of Energy invest $600,000 in university industry partnerships to enhance building efficiency. And again, to me, this is just a constant reporting, because I'm very happy the way we're getting support at the highest levels, because it does ripple through. But I really got a kick out of who all is involved. And again, Georgia, the state of Georgia is never to be second. They got the Georgia Institute of Technology, Atlanta, Georgia. Georgia Tech will support 20 student project teams in developing building energy efficiency technologies through a capstone design project. And the reason why that's important to me is we keep talking about young guns. We keep talking about pushing the resources that we have into the young people that are going to eventually supersede us, replace us in our positions, and make building management, building automation, an important IIoT sexy industry. So I applaud all these programs that go into the college level and start to talk about buildings, because that's really where it's at. I mean, if you think about it, that's one of the most important sustainable technologies we have. I mean, food, medicine, our health, but we have to work and live in environments that need to be optimal operational technologies, IT that have to be protected, secure, and they have to be efficient. So we have limited resources, and when we get the young guns involved, they're going to make it better.
Well, they sure are, Kenny. And go Yellow Jackets. That's the Georgia Tech team, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. They're right down the street from me, and we do quite a bit of business with the folks at Georgia Tech, so we appreciate that. And speaking of young guns, Kenny, I finally tracked down our girl from the young gun realm, Anonymous J. And you know what? I think we're going to be getting her on the show here pretty shortly. So, Anonymous, if you are listening or watching, the community wants you. So with that, we go from a young gun, Kenny, to, a kind of an older gun, but young at heart. Our friend, Lars Vanderhagen, who is now the top dog at Belimo. I think he's going back to Switzerland, huh?
Well, you're right, Eric. Effective July 1st, Lars Vanderhagen assumed duties as the CEO of Belimo Group. He's been just a great guy. We met him a couple of times. He came to the Control Trends Awards, and just a gregarious guy. But he's very intelligent and very capable. And now he's assumed command as CEO of Belimo's group. And we picked him up. Actually, this thing came up on a Twitter feed. Lars is active in the social media, and I picked it up on my iPhone and went to it. And it was a interesting Belimo zone tight zone valve that he was tweeting about. And he says that he comments that the video was created by marketing team of Belimo's, and you don't have to be boring. This is a Take Your Daughter to Work Day, where you learn about the great features and benefits, while the father who works for Belimo shows off his newest invention, the Belimo zone-tight valve. So it's kind of cool because Lars says, watching this outstanding example of a launch video for a new zone valve doesn't have to be boring. The B2B videos can be creative and just interesting.
Well, they were interesting, very interesting indeed. And I tell you what, Kenny, you probably don't have off the top of your head, but in the show notes, let's put Lars' Twitter handle down. You guys ought to follow Lars Vanderhagen. Again, cool guy over in Switzerland. Kenny and I are going to try and go see him probably in September. Take the cameras, get him on camera. I tell you what, Lars is so cool, even an anonymous Jay would like him.
All right, next up we have Ken St. Clair's automated building release for July, Finding Reality in a Virtual World. Ken, he's ambitious, and I don't know where he gets the energy. It must be from the assistance he gets from his spouse, who just doesn't let him rest, because he now has gone into the reality of, we have so much information being poured at us, literally fire hose style, whether it's a digital media, whether it's videos now, even videos. He says there's so many of them that you can go on. How do you put a strainer in that, and how do you filter out for the important stuff? And he says that when it all comes down to it, the trusted people and trusted sources are the ones that bring the clarity. So he said when we started Automated Buildings 17 years ago, we created an online vehicle designed to connect the reality of large building automation to a virtual world. And now, because of the ease of publishing online, everyone posts it, and you've got a blizzard of information that you can be misled. You can come away spending a lot of time with no merit, nothing, no reward for the time you spend. So he's saying that that can become an issue. So it's a great post. There's a lot more information on there. I always,
There is. I got to just hop in here real quick, because Ken, it's the July issue. You guys got to check this out. I had no idea Ken's such a great writer, Ken. I don't know that you had a chance to, maybe just if your name's Ken or Kenny, you just naturally have that talent. But he wrote a great post called The Roadmap of Possible for the Connected Buildings. He talks about the smart grid, but Kenny, he makes a great point. He says that they surveyed 700 American construction professionals. And what they discovered is that they will all pay more for buildings that are smart, that promote health benefits and energy efficiency. So this is, I think, a great statistic and should not be lost on our community. I think, as we all struggle to sell more product and get more product in the marketplace, what we're discovering is it's less about the product and more about what the product can do and the benefits. And you've got to be able to make a business case, I think, to be successful. And Kenny, you and I have talked a lot about this, on numerous episodes about, the importance of presentation, the importance of really understanding your customer. Paul Oswald talked about it, in his presentation at Realcomm Ibicon. So just a note there. This is a great issue. Check that article out. Ken's got some great stats. And then the other thing, Kenny, is that our friend Varun Nagaraj from Sierra Monitor has a fantastic article in there.
You talking to me?
I'm talking to you, and he's talking to us. And
well, Varun, that's kind of cool. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Varun apparently went to the Measurement Control Automation Association, which is, I guess, a smart connected type, a group of people that make quote unquote smart devices, okay, from flow meters. It's primarily on the industrial side, and sort of the takeaway, I encourage you to read the article. The takeaway was that people are in that sector are more focused on making the devices, and they're not sort of embracing the technology in terms of making them smart, the software side of it. And I think Varun sort of questions that is a sustainable strategy. And I tell you what, he's one of the most enlightened guys we've talked to in a while. We got more coming up on him later, right, Big Dog?
We sure do. Actually, we'll just give a brief intro. There was the industrial Internet of Things is, big data, and whatever. But there's 50 billion, devices now coming onto the internet, and 35 billion of them have to do with the IIoT, the Industrial Internet of Things. But what Varun does, and we do have two other posts. One is an interview with, it's actually the first video where it's instructive in nature. But the thing that the realities now is that as we have this technology and we put it to work, we actually have a great industry ahead of us. There's such possibilities out there that we haven't really exerted ourselves intelligently to go after this market. So he says for the OEM, the integrator, and the users are all changing. The channel's changing. We'll go back into it, but he has a concept like what happens if a city makes intelligent cities put sensors on their manhole covers. And these sensors now could tell you if there's water flowing there or telling you the level of the water, so the city can actually monitor the potentials of flooding. He said it's a perfect application where in this rainy seasons, for Pittsburgh, we could use that because it's amazing when you drive through. We've had incredible rains, and we used to try to work with some of the municipalities, the water agencies, and the sewage departments. They lose control over things when you get such a volume of water, but you could actually, if you had an alerting system, if you had a deployed sensor system, you could see where your worst case are happening. You could do the lesser two evils. You can plan things, but right now it's kind of a drive over and see how high the water is, and they got people calling from different points. But great stuff from Varun.
He is truly an enlightened individual, and again, we got a special treat we'll be talking about later with Varun. But all right, Kenny, what do we have up next, big dog?
All right, Eric, next up we have, again, we got a lot because we took a break there during 4th of July, so we're going to have to be just a little bit quicker. We have building analytics trends updates with John Petsy, and I love it because, you can't get enough of John Petsy because he's so enthusiastic, he's so knowledgeable, and he has an incredible, background and experience, and he really puts big data to work. Why don't you tell us about that interview post you had with John?
Well, John Petsy also has an incredible rhythm, and what I mean by that, if you were at the Haystack Connect meeting, you saw John Petsy playing drums, but John Petsy, we finally call him Mr. Big Data. He's been playing at this for probably longer than anybody I know. And I think what John shares in this video is some trends he's seeing in analytics. And I don't want to give it away. Check the video out. It's worth the 4 minutes and talking to him. But John is definitely somebody that is worth listening to, in my opinion.
Great. Then we had the 4th of July, the hiatus. We took a little break there, traveled some. But what's really cool about the 4th of July? I'm not going to try to turn anybody off here. I just didn't know this. Did you know that there were 3 presidents that died on 4th of July?
I did not. Who?
John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and James Monroe. So the fact that these presidents died on 4th of July might have had influence of moving it from the 2nd of July to the 4th of July. So there might have been some after the some historical correcting going on.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Sure does. All right, Eric. The next post we had was Sierra Monitoring Corporation featured application to boiler room safety. And I know you all sell a lot of industrial controls, and so do we. And you just, when you have a post that, number one, gives you good application guidance, but also gives you the current links to your codes and where you can go get your guidance from. The problem that you have sometimes in this industry is that everybody has a different codes. I mean, you have ASME codes, you have the NFPA codes, UL 2446 codes, you have the international fuel codes, and then you comply with those codes, and then locally you have local codes. So it's a stable but not completely stable. It's not static. It changes, and some of the requirements we had. They come through the city and they red tag a bunch of boilers and whatever. So it's always good to update yourself. This is a great post. They could go through the combustible gases. And the most important thing is that integration. This is now another opportunity. If you have the Niagara framework in there, or if you have a good BMS system, you should be reaching out and integrating all of your toxic gases, all of your CO2, that should all come into the building management system. I mean, that's a great, efficiency and economy of scale, and you sell more sensors. And
yeah, absolutely. And Kenny, you can also bring it into if you're an industrial manufacturing plant, you can bring it into your PLCs or your DCS, your industrial system as well. So again, Varun and Sierra Monitor play in that market, the industrial market, a lot, as well as the commercials. We'll find out later.
They sure do. All right, next up, next post is going to be, we just did a summary, ControlTalk Now, for the week ending July 5th. It's got it's a concise, condensed summary of what we did in the week. Next comes up Project Haystack, free smart building seminar. This is going to be July 22nd. And interestingly enough, it's hosted in the UK. So make sure you check your time slots because it starts at 4 p.m. UK time. So that's at least 5 hours ahead of us in Pittsburgh. So if I wanted to watch that at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in their time would be 11 o'clock. I'm sorry, it would be, 11 o'clock our time.
Well, I tell you what, and I think it just speaks again to, Kenny and I both covered Project Haystack. We talked a little bit about it earlier. We'll talk a little bit more about it in the show, but it is a trend that is becoming more and more prevalent, not just in the U.S., but around the world. And I tell you what, Kenny, I think this is a great point in the show to introduce a whole new flavor we have on the show. Control Trends followers are all around the world, and we are initiating a new series called Control Trends Around the World. Kind of makes sense, doesn't it? So the thought process there is every week we hope we're going to have a correspondent from a different part of the globe, and we are starting this episode, or I should say our first episode of Control Trends Around the World, which will be a segment on Control Talk Now, comes from down under in Australia. Kenny, tell us about our first correspondent on Control Trends Around the World.
Love to, Eric. Our guest is Richard McElhaney from Airmaster. And Richard is a well-known integrator. He's been in the business a long time, spent time in England, and now he's down in Australia. He is also a very important and major contributor to Project Haystack. Airmaster was one of the original signatories for Project Haystack when they did the 501. He reports live from Australia, some of the new trends and developments down there.
Perfect. Well, without further ado, Richard, welcome to the show. It's good to see you again. Rich, as you know, we met you at Haystack. And, man, what were some of your takeaways from Haystack?
Absolutely, Eric. Look, I've got a top 5 for you. So my top 5 takeaways from the Haystack Connect conference in Colorado, number 5, attendance. Look, attendance, it was up 40% from the Haystack Connect conference in 2013. There were some 240 people attending this year's Haystack Connect conference, which is up from around 160 2 years ago. This shows that the community is growing, and Project Haystack is being recognized as a serious player within the industry and also in the emerging area of semantic modeling of systems, which is a really, really great thing to see. Moving on, number 4, I thought the sessions were fantastic. What a great range of sessions and speakers and topics. All the presentations were of a really, really high quality. Great information was given out. I managed to moderate one of the sessions on wireless, and I really enjoyed hearing all the updates from the different presenters. Got to sit in on quite a few other sessions as well. As I said, great topics, great information. The community spirit was really out there for everyone to see. With people willing to share information and cooperate and collaborate. And that was, really, really great to see. Number 3 in my top 5, new products. What a great range of new products we had. There was a fantastic lineup, a lot of new things introduced to the market. I'd just like to mention a few. First of all, J2 Innovations with FinStack. FinStack's been around now the last couple of shows I've been to, but it was really polished this time. It was great to see. I'd like to mention Pete Horton and WattStopper with their street lighting technology that embeds the Haystack standard. Of course, Alpa from Bass Graphics, always a great proponent of the Haystack standard, and his products always reflect the spirit of what we're trying to do there. Intellistar with their range of embedded controllers. I was about to send them into outer space there. Look, again, just showing what the quality of the products are out there. LinkSpring, they launched and announced their new backnet to Haystack data pump. It was great to see Sean and Mark there promoting that. Contemporary Controls with their new automation platform. And, of course, we were there, Airmaster, showing off the latest release of Plant Pro with auto configuration of Haystack tagging. Look, I'm sure I've missed a few. Sorry to anyone I missed. I didn't go around to see, but look, that's just a selection of some of the new products that were out there. Number 2, look, something that struck me was the discussions around hardware platforms. With Project Haystack, we often talk about software implementations and the software side of things. But there were some great discussions around hardware and the importance that it plays in this space. I sat in on the hardware session. There were some great presentations, really informative, and a really open discussion at the end of that session. We had representatives from Intel there, and of course Jerry Frank, highlighting where this space is going, particularly with the developments of IoT, and that's going to be a big effect in this market, and I don't think anyone can deny where this is going to go. And lastly, my number one big takeaway, Eric, Ken, how many Aussies did you see at the bar this year? No less than 6 of us made the trip across to Colorado. Doesn't sound like many, I know, 6 out of 240, but a big increase in numbers from 2013, from the event in Chattanooga, where I was the only Australian and having to hold up my end with everyone. But it was great to see everyone from Australia making the trip over. Hopefully we can see a few more next time. Lastly, look, Haystack Connect 2015 was a great event. Big thank you to John Petsy, Mark Peacock, Robin Bestel, and Lynn Scott for all their organisation. We know these guys put on a quality and professional show, and this event was no exception. Also, lastly, the appearance of the interoperable blues band and John Petsy on drums. What a great way to finish the event. And Eric, I saw you there on the bongos late into the night.
All right, Richard, that's great stuff. Now that you're back in Australia, anything new and important that you can share with the Control Trends community from Australia?
I've got a few things to mention that have come up since the Haystack conference. Firstly, Tritium releasing some new Vicon I/O modules here in this part of the world. They're just being released in our market. They speak BACnet MSTP, and there is a new controller being released with BACnet IP. There will be a programming tool made available for these controllers. I don't have the availability just yet, but for those interested, please contact David Murray, the Pacific Sales and Dealer Manager for Tritium, or Chireu Shah at Conservit. That's www.conservit.com.au. Look, these controllers have been developed out of the Tritium Asia Pacific office, developed in China. I believe that in China there are already some 5,000 of these controllers being installed. They should be competitively priced, so we're looking forward to these coming to Australia. Contact those representatives for further information, and stay tuned for more information when it comes to hand on those ones. Next, look, over the next week or two, I hear that your friend, my friend, and a great friend of Control Trends, Mike Marsden, and his colleagues will be visiting Australia. We'll be looking to see some of their developments and latest innovations. Mike and the EasyIO guys have a great deal of business in Australia, and it's always good to see them and what's coming out of their team. So we're looking forward to see Mike and the guys from EasyIO. Also, a couple of points to note from Schneider Electric. We at Airmaster have been partners with Schneider Electric in many forms for over 20 years, so we love their products there. Look, here in Australia, they've launched the Schneider Electric Online University. I have the URL with me, and I might send it to you guys, but it's pretty long, so I won't read it out. Look, I'm going to have it up on the Airmaster website in the next few days. We'll have a resources section there where people will be able to find the links and documentation for things that I'm mentioning and that are of interest. The online university, look, it's a great tool. There's lots of great courses for novices and experienced practitioners alike. I understand that the completion of these courses on the Schneider Electric Online University are recognised globally, so it's something for people in our industry to benefit from. Another point from Schneider Electric is we've seen the release of the Smart Structure Lite product. This is from Schneider Electric. I'm pretty sure you guys have it there in North America. This has recently been released here in Australia. Look, obviously, as you know, that focuses on the small to medium offices and retail spaces. This product is a great fit for that market, and I know that we'll definitely be looking to push that into that space. Lastly, also, something I'll mention a few times is that over the next few months, is that Conservit, who is the local tritium dealer and also the Sky Foundry distributor in this region. They will be hosting the Sky Foundry Essentials training in November. So for anyone who is into the SkySpark analytics product or thinking of getting into that space, Conservit have organised Adam Wallen from Sky Foundry to come down to Melbourne and to deliver that training course in November. That's their factory training course in November. So for more information, please contact Conservit. All the details are on their website, www.conservit.com.au.
Okay, Richard, that's really impressive that 6 people from Australia came all the way to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and made great contributions. And it's a great summary. I really appreciate your information. Thank you.
Yeah, Richard, that's great. Congratulations again. I think you passed the audition as our correspondent from Down Under. Great job. So just real quickly, let's summarize Haystack again real quick and your final takeaways.
Yeah, Eric, just one last thing. Look, as you guys know, I'm involved with the Project Haystack Corporation. We had our first board meeting since the Haystack Connect conference. At that event, the corporation announced a new associate membership program, and I'm pleased to announce that we have received and approved our first associate member. So this is a really big deal for us. Having members in Project Haystack is part of what we're all about in promoting that community and promoting Haystack as a global standard. So I'm pleased to announce that Intelligent Buildings out of North Carolina, Grosvenor Engineering from Sydney, and our very own Bueno Systems based in Sydney but operating all across Australia, the first 3 members or associate members of the Project Haystack community. So congratulations to all 3 companies. We're really looking forward to see lots of people sign up, but these guys have seen the light. They've got in first, and they'll be reaping the benefits of the promotion and promotional and marketing material that we'll be putting out shortly on this topic. Hey, it should be noticed, Eric and Ken, that right now the Aussies, we are leading the way in Project Haystack. So hopefully that continues for some time. But look, we're looking forward to getting members from all around the world into the Project Haystack community.
All right, Kenny, there we have it. Richard McElhaney from Down Under. Listen, Richard, we got another show called Mike Marston's Control Pub Talk Around the World. When you see Mike down there, you guys got to film an episode. So thanks again, buddy. We'll see you in about a month.
Yeah, look, thanks, Eric. Thanks, Ken. Great to talk to you, and we'll see you again next month. Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Okay, Kenny, great stuff from Richard, huh?
Sure was. He's just a nice guy. He's intelligent, and he really likes his job. Again, to me, if you can find something that you really are passionate about, these guys, they like what they're doing and they do it well, but they also give something back. I think the additional efforts he puts into Project Haystack, they go unnoticed a lot. People don't realize a lot of these things don't happen by magic. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of sacrifice and sharing. I think they do too. Is that they're not afraid to share their intelligence and share their knowledge of the industry.
No, it's really good stuff. And of course, you talking about passion. We got our friend Chris Snyder from down there with OpenBMS. We will be seeing him, I'm sure, in Paris this year at the EasyIO conference. So a lot of great minds, a lot of great talent coming out of Australia. So again, thanks so much, Richard. And the question becomes, where will we be next week in the world? Which of our correspondents around the planet will be calling in so we can get them on the show? So be sure to check Richard's company out, Plant Pro. We have a link in the show notes for it. They do great work. All right, Kenny, what we have up next, big dog?
Well, the next post is a big post, and it's probably can't get it all, can't talk about it enough, and that's the Realcomm IBCOM 2015 and your interview with Jim Young. And I'll tell you, I had to I watched it twice because Jim is probably the most he's like an ambassador, and he's like a spokesman. He reminds me of like a press secretary for the president, because it's just an executive style everything. He wastes very little time. But you asked him to recap it. He said there was 5 major things. He said cybersecurity was a huge portion of Realcomm, IBCOM. Strategy, you got to get better roadmaps going, and the platform's critical, your starting point. Big data, big deal. It won't go away. It's only going to get more important, and people are going to have better tools, better applications. 4, the need for more smart people. He hats off to Ken St. Clair and some of his ambitious work to get us more focused on making tangible steps to save the intelligence, put it in libraries of some sort, video libraries. He gets us involved in that. But also, Jim Young recognized it too, that the universities need to prepare more people, and hence that comment to the DOE and Georgia Tech at the very beginning of the show is because that's right. I'd love to hear all the major players in the business from every perspective chiming in on the same target, shooting arrows at that same bullseye. We need to keep doing that, and I think we'll be addressing it fairly. And then lastly, and that's where you're going to help me out here, was a DC microgrids. You interviewed another gentleman, it's another post, but there's an interesting turnaround of DC and AC. We know that some of the most incredible stories about our industry was like the industry giants of Tesla versus Edison, and then AB&B. They did something in Europe, in the North Sea, where they're converting the wind turbines right to DC voltage, and our AC generation may not survive another 100 years. And Mr. Edison may gain victory over Mr. Tesla 200 years after they're taking the gloves off and really competing hard at the World's Fair in Chicago. I think it was 1892. And then they had a big episode up at the Niagara Falls, where the first turbine, the waterfall generating the AC voltage won out over DC because it could go to the city of Buffalo, which was 20 miles away, where the DC voltage couldn't even go 5 miles. So we're seeing an interesting turn of events that kind of culminated with Jim's last point.
Well, hang on a second, Kenny. Let me hop in here real quick because I want to tell a Tesla story. So for our listeners who might not know, Tesla worked for Edison for a while, and there was some bitter blood between them. They disagreed on a lot of things, AC versus DC voltage being one of them, and Tesla was very... I think upset and felt jilted. He felt like that Edison had taken a lot of his ideas and made millions off of them. Tesla actually moved to Colorado Springs, where we were for Haystack Connect. And there are all kinds of stories, alleged stories, I don't know whether they're true or not, that Edison had all kinds of spies and stuff like that harassing Tesla and all. But my favorite story about Tesla was he was kind of a joker. So he's one of the first lighting guys. Mike Salvador Dali Welch would appreciate this from Control Networks in England, our lighting expert. But apparently Tesla, different types of light reflect differently on human beings. So he would love to have lady friends over, and they would go to the ladies' room to powder their nose and fix their makeup and all. And he put a different type of light in there, so that they would look differently. So when they put their makeup on, they look really, really good in that mirror, right? But when they would come out, it was all hideous when they got a different light source. So Tesla was a bit of a joker and an absolute genius. And then sort of getting back to your point, Kenny, Jim Young is brilliant. I mean, we call him the prophetic Jim Young. He tends to, like Ken St. Clair, be way out in front of what's going on. So anytime Jim Young's talking about something, we listen. And Jim said, hey, the next big trend is going to be this DC microgrid, and you need to meet this guy. And he'll be we'll talk about him here in a minute. But needless to say, Jim did another fantastic show, him and his team at Realcomm Ibicon. By the time we got to him, I think you could see he was exhausted. I know he'd been working his tail off, as well as the rest of the team, for months to prepare for this conference. And I think he's probably away on an island someplace just chilling out. What do you think?
That's what he says. He has to go up to the mountains and meditates
Decompress.
Decompress. That's the word. That makes sense. We have a tiny bit of that when you get, when you put together, a show of this magnitude and the prodigious effort made and the coordination and just everything. Down to making sure everybody's taken care of and every vendor's happy with the show. When it's over, you have to depart. And but you could see he was right there at the ninth inning, 2 outs. He was looking for the last pitch.
He was looking for the dugout, wasn't he?
He sure was. But it was a great job. And like I say, it just keeps. There's other articles. I wanted to mention that Tree Sullivan has made several articles about the her review in 2015. So some of the best people, best minds in the industry now look at who was there, why they were there, what the trends were, and then try to project where we're going to go as an industry, and what directions and how much of an influence some of those people had. And we've seen the people that come there do influence our market. We remember last year we saw Dell, we saw Intel, we saw Telesur. We saw different people get to the Realcomm IBCon, especially IBCon, where they're showing off the new wares and new applications, and then they're taking away a lot of customers. They're taking away a lot of contacts and a lot of leads. And I can't see it ever abating, because that's the only way you can go somewhere and get a whole bunch of information quickly.
Well, I think it's a testament to the potential of our industry. Not only the potential, but the importance of it with sustainability and energy savings and stuff like that. So it's attracted the biggest and the best companies on the planet. And Kenny and I have apostolized this as much as possible. That we have to think differently. We have to act differently. We have to be willing to move quicker. Otherwise, we're just going to get bypassed and made irrelevant. So, and you mentioned somebody, Therese Sullivan. A special shout out to Therese. She's really very articulate, very astute. You can check her blog out at buildingcontext.me. Hi, Therese. We miss you. And let's move on to this next post, Kenny Smyers. What we got next?
Oh, it's another put new tools and content on the Building America Solutions Center to work for you. And again, you're going to see this. Hopefully, we keep on track, because we're very fortunate that we get the updates. This is another Department of Energy Building America program. They're giving away information. You go to a Register Now conference. It's July 22nd, 3 o'clock to 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you get to see what the Building America Solutions Center is doing. It's an easy-to-follow, illustrated step-by-step guide for installing measures that make high-performance houses. A number of updates have been implemented, exciting new tools and content that builders and industry professionals can put to work immediately. So you get to tune into this free webinar, and it's July 22nd. We have the hot buttons on Control Trends in that post, and please take advantage of it.
Absolutely, Kenny Smyers.
And we don't stop there. We go right to the next. Link Spring announces the October Link Spring Exchange. It will be held October 26th through the 28th, 2015 at the Argosy Hotel and Casino, Riverside, Missouri. And that looks like a lot of fun, a lot of learning. And so I mean, just think about it for a minute. You got Mark Peacock will be there, obviously, the Vice President of Marketing. You got Terry Swope. So anytime Terry's involved in anything, there's going to be a good time. And like Terry's been at a bunch of the Control Trends Awards. He's got to be the coolest looking guy in our industry. He's got the Greg Allman hair. He could be a Greg Allman lookalike. And he also plays a wicked guitar. I think it was last year, he actually did an intro for us where he was playing the guitar for ControlTalk Now, which was really cool. So, yeah, definitely check that out. I think that is open to, obviously, the Link Spring partners. I think it's also open to end users. And probably the curious, except for if you're one of Link Spring's competitors. Well, I don't know. The way those guys roll, they probably would invite everybody in. I don't think they hide from anybody. Well, I'll tell you exactly. The Link Spring Exchange brings together Link Spring's ecosystem and community of business partners, integrators, contractors, OEMs, technology partners, and that would be the vendors you're talking, industry professionals and practitioners to exchange, collaborate, network, and learn about today's operating systems and solutions for operating smarter facilities, safer, secure, more efficient, at peak performance levels in the latest advanced smart device applications. It's an opportunity to converse, connect, exchange, and interact with individuals delivering and deploying technologies and solutions that are changing how buildings and facilities are managed and operate. Well done, Mark.
Well done, Mark. What we have up next, Kenny?
Well, next up is the Project Haystack, the amazing live demo. The future of tagging is here. These guys, again, you call them tightrope walkers, and I agree. The masters of myth busting, Jason Briggs and Scott Minch, brought tagging to life instantly and with profound effect, in close cooperation with a whole bunch of vendors and contributors. But we'll talk about that in a second. But I wanted to just say that the tagging thing that they did, using the people and using the props they did, it was like watching Sesame Street for our because it was very effective. In other words, they hit the sensory buttons. You heard it, you understood it, they showed it, but then to see these things come up to life live on the screen, and then somebody's holding a bulb, and the bulb lights, so it's just, the whole thing was entertaining, and it was cool.
It was, and Kenny
was showing off.
Yeah, they did fantastic. So the old saying, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I say a video's worth 1,000,000 pictures. So I think you totally nailed that. But most impressive thing about that to me was how Scott Minch grew that beard overnight.
Well, I'll tell you. And then there's two posts to follow that. So you had Jason Briggs' post. It's these guys really. You talk about passion and you talk about contributing.
Right.
The people now, the community is growing, and the collaboration. So when you do have this collaboration, that ecosystem, it increases the capabilities exponentially in a way that no linear individual effort could possibly do it. So now you've got J2 Innovations, Sky Foundry, Link Spring, Altura, Pacific Controls, Siemens, KMC Controls, Contemporary Controls, Legrand, Wattstopper, Veris, Bueno, Onicon, Wind, Daintree Networks, BASSG, Airmaster, Connex Energy, Lobo Shardy, Intellistar, CB Richard Ellis, and ESI, all coming together.
Whoa! I don't want to forget Contemporary Controls, big dog. George Thomas.
I said them.
Oh, you did.
Okay.
All right.
I did. They were actually fifth.
Okay.
So they all came together in the same application. So you share those kind of resources. You pull that knowledge. You pull that capabilities together. You got some scary developments.
So Kenny, for somebody who might be just tuning into the show for the first time that hasn't really tracked Haystack down or followed it much, just in 2 sentences, elevator speech, what is Haystack all about? In your opinion?
It's about bringing maximizing efficiencies and operation technologies inside of buildings by using taggings, so that the information is readily accessible and can be accessed machine to machine. Instead of having people doing the link monkeys and all the other stuff and kind of hiding information behind in the programs, whatever you do, you put that information in tags that are readily accessible by an automated process.
No, agreed. I think the takeaway for this, for our end user customers out there, and I think the end users at Realcomm are real savvy to this, as well as our systems integrators and the savvy consulting engineers, Kenny, is that it doesn't cost you anything to ask your controllers to be Haystack compliant. In other words, it's a little bit of work for the manufacturers to get them in there, but once they're in there, that you're able to pull them out. And I think what the video showed too was that even if your controller isn't Haystack, if it's BACnet compliant, they can actually, you have to add an additional step or two, but you can talk to anything. It doesn't have to be, the controller doesn't have to be Haystack, but it just makes it a lot easier if it is.
Well, you're seeing J2 Innovations now as OEM to KMC, Siemens. So when you have these large manufacturers using J2, they're going to be using the tagging concepts. So it's moving, it's there. Siemens now, I think, has and we know Niagara has responded to it. So I mean, it's not going away. So I think Haystack has made its play. It has an indelible impression now in our business because it makes so much sense. And you and I got that firsthand. We got to see that.
Oh yeah, when you get to see that demo, it blows you away. And I just want to say congratulations again to Scott Mensch and Jason Briggs. Another fantastic demo.
Right on. Next up, Eric, we have Catching Up with Derek Cowburn from LumenCache. And that was a very good, the guy, another passionate entrepreneur who really truly believes in what he's doing. But he's not just taking his own product to present that. He's presenting the concept that we might see a major, major change on how we provide the power inside of a building. Instead of taking it from AC or DC to AC back to DC, we might just start seeing stuff coming in DC and have gigantic batteries in our buildings that are high efficiency, and they provide the DC throughout the building so that you don't have to go from AC to DC. It's all that duplicity in the infrastructure. So what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we put some links in the post. After talking to Derek, we can go to LumenCache. I think they're making great strides in the residential side, specifically with lighting. So they're able to create these sources. Then they'll eventually be able to hook these things up to like solar and wind power and stuff like that, store it. But on the residential side right now, if the power goes out, you still have power for your lights. So I think he's all over that. I think the bigger play, and this is what I think Jim Young was alluding, the prophetic Jim Young was alluding to, and I think why Derek was at Realcomm Ibicon is I think the bigger play is going to be in commercial buildings. And I think one of the points is, you're going to have something like this if we're ever going to get to zero sum, meaning energy buildings that put back as much energy as they use. So they're using net zero energy. For them to do stuff like this, you're going to have this DC microgrid technology hooked up with some form of wind, solar, or something like that to augment the power grid. So I think Derek is one of these guys we might very well, Kenny, look back, 4 or 5 years from now, and he might be the guy that's on the cover of Fortune magazine and in the Wall Street Journal talking about the guy that sort of led this revolution, the green wave tech. He's right in the middle of it. So Derek, great guy. I had the opportunity to speak with him. He is going to hopefully come on Control Trends and do some more interviews with us. So if you're interested, reach out in comments. Let us know. If you have questions for Derek, let us know. We'd like to get him on the show to talk about what he's doing, all the stuff he's doing. But I'm curious from our community, Kenny, how do you see this relating to what we're doing? I mean, if you're a building owner, facilities manager, or even a systems integrator, I'd be interested in what a guy like Rick Warner, for example, or Big Poppy, Little Poppy from Hupta Systems, what they think about it, what a Scott Cochran thinks about it, what a Brian Turner thinks about it. I mean, we got so many great minds in our industry that are doing so many things, but I'm not so sure that this might be so far out that it hadn't shown up on anybody's radar yet.
No, it has. Yeah. It's there. I'm looking at the tower at PNC Plaza, Eric, just to give you a testament to exactly what you're saying, and sustainability. And these buildings now have they're taking advantage of all that sustainable energy. They're taking advantage of solar, the wind turbines. The different styles. They've made such incredible technological advancements on it that now they're doing the green thing. And in this green, building green, growing green, it just goes on and on. It's a $250 million project. And it's going to be the 650,000 square feet open in let's see, I think it might open this year. I mean, they're 86% complete. The website has the information on it, but the leads and the information. This building was designed to do all those things we always talk about with the water. The different, the potable water, the gray water, brown water, and then they're going to use that water and filter it, bring it back in through the system. They could collect water. Pittsburgh gets enough rain where they probably, so they're actually going to be using energy that they're collecting, at the location, and the best way to use that energy they're collecting is to have the ability to go right to DC. So so that's where I think the connection of these new buildings being built are going to have those capabilities.
Very, very cool.
In their interior construction.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff there. But check it out, and we've got links to Derek's website. He's a guy we're checking out, following him, and we put his link to his LinkedIn profile. So if you're a LinkedIn guy, you can try to connect with him through there as well.
Righto, Eric. Next up, we have DG Logik update. Adobe releases a patch to Flash Player, which eliminates vulnerability, and we got a chance to talk to Eugene Mazzo again. Always exciting. Eugene's always on the cusp of new technologies, but this was a hey, listen, we got the fix here, and you need to respond. So the DG Lux people need to know that Adobe has released a patch to a Flash Player which eliminates the vulnerability. Ensure that you have the most up-to-date Flash Player, which includes the patch for the vulnerability. It's listed right there. It's a hyperlink. We have it there. DG Logik wants to ensure you that they remain committed to supporting the DG Lux 2. And you can continue to utilize it without concern, as Adobe has now fixed the issue. Okay, so and again, they've got the links to it and the coaching on how to get the. It just said these offers do not expire. Thus, when you're ready to begin your transition, please feel free to contact DG Logik and request to take advantage of the patches and the upgrades.
Good stuff. Yeah, we got a call with Eugene on Tuesday, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to get a chance to sort of catch up with Eugene and see what they're all up to. Eugene and DG are one of our platinum sponsors for the Control Trends Awards, have been every year. We appreciate them for that, and a very innovative set of characters there. So,
sure.
All right, Kenny, what do we have up next, big dog?
Well, we're coming into our final, one of our final posts, Sierra Monitoring Network Conversations, Video Volume 1, Understanding IoT. And you talk about, just how Control Trends has matured and how the community has really taken, an opportunity to invest their time and energy using the video resources that are available. And as Ken St. Clair has requested many times, he wants to organize video libraries and video reference sites to the point where he can make, if he has something he's talking about in automated buildings, there'll be a link to come to Control Trends and watch a video on it. And we're going to continue to work on these ambitious projects. But in the meantime, Mr. Varun Nagaraj has now taken a professorial presentation, and I watched this and I learned so much because we sell this stuff, and the more you know about it, the easier it is to sell it, and the more sense it makes. But he talks about three most important things: the relevant trends, technology, and business models. For me, one of the most important takeaways is that the OEMs and integrators and facility managers and building managers, the model of how they go to business is changing. And if you don't adjust your present business model, you're going to be outside of the new channel. So the value chain is a dynamic process, and it's constantly changing. And so that the long-standing models are no longer valid anymore. So, but that doesn't mean it's not a good thing. And he said that, again, like Ken St. Clair said, there's so much information out there that you now need. You need somebody that really truly has a vested interest, that really represents the underlying values and why the information they're providing is more important or as important or the real credible source. Because there's so many things that are marketing and driven to sell it rather than give you the basic understandings, the foundation of why and how things work. So, but the overview is just that the IIoT has a huge impact. We have 50 billion things now on the Internet of Things connected to the the Internet, and the good thing about that is 35 billion of them are related to our industry, which means that's a potential market. So that you can now take your technology and look at a customer. He calls them, fixed places where you have environments. Whether it's an office or an industry, factory, and all these environments, these places can benefit from smart technology applied to relatively static, dumb sensors. And dumb's a bad word or poor choice of words, but you can now take these because. He gives the examples like Nest, the thermostat. He gives, the watch, the Fitbit. Now we're taking a watch and we're making it part of the internet. It's connected to my iPhone. I can do my heart, how well I slept, blah, blah, blah. But the garage door notifiers, so garage doors were just, open and close. But now it can tell you if you forgot to close your garage door. It can tell you when your kids came home. It can tell you if you're being broken into. If you're out of town and your garage door goes off, your alert, you got something. So that was made smart. So he keeps going on to the... how you can structure workspaces, factories, plants, smart cities, down to the earlier example I gave about the manhole covers can now be manufactured with sensors on the bottom of them, so they can measure or they can detect water flow, level. It's just an incredibly simple, smart application onto a relatively dumb product. So I love it.
So yeah, Kenny, let me ask you a question. I mean, what percentage of the people you think in our business or our industry use Windows and Microsoft? A lot?
Probably 99.9%.
So what would it be like if you could spend, an hour a week just talking one-on-one with Bill Gates? What would it be like if you could just drop a question and Bill Gates would answer it for you? I mean, that'd be pretty cool, wouldn't it?
I would say so.
Yeah. So Varun he's the CEO of Sierra Monitoring. I mean, he's a brilliant guy. And that's kind of what he's agreed to do for the Control Trends community. He's going to do at least 12 shows for us. And, if you watch this, you're going to see you got a guy who is absolutely brilliant and he understands the technology, but he also has another gift that not everybody has. A lot of times technical people can't sort of bring it back and talk in terms where you feel like you're just talking to a friend, right? Where they just explain stuff. And Varun's got that. And, I think we're so fortunate because he's agreed to do 12 of these shows where he is going to answer community questions and see if he can sort of assist taking us to the next level in connecting the Internet of Things. And that's what his company does, and that's what his mission is. And I think if you go back to the article that he wrote for Ken Sinclair, you can see he's kind of got a perspective on where this is going that most people don't. And it'd be a little bit like before Microsoft stock even became available, if all of a sudden you had these conversations with Bill Gates and he was able to tell you that this was going to be like the next big thing. So I encourage you to check out Varun's episode here. And again, he's going to do 12 of them. If you have questions on networking, you can email them to us at controltrends@gmail.com, and we'll get them to Varun, and Varun will answer them. So this is just a very unique, great opportunity to be educated on one of the things that's going to affect all of us by one of the great minds in our industry. So really, really appreciate Varun taking the time to do this. and I encourage our community to take advantage of this. So Varun is very serious. If you send questions, controltrends@gmail.com, he is going to get them answered for you. So we'll have him on once a month, and look forward to the next episode 2 of Control Networking Conversations with Varun Nagaraj from SierraMonitor.com.
Yeah, and then my summary on that would be that, you just said having a conversation with Bill Gates, and he tells you what the big tip is. We talk about Jim Young being prophetic. Well, Varun says that there's 4 major impacts now. You've got sensing, new communication, which would be your wirelesses. You've got the cloud, which gives you incredible capabilities. You're not limited by your servers and your physical computing capabilities, and analytics. And the analytics help. The crescendo is that now we can produce such high levels of productivity. In other words, we can make the world a bigger, better, faster, more profitable, less carbon place by using this technology. So our jobs, your job, Mr. Stromquist, if you accept the mission, is to motivate people to get on board. Like Jim says, jump now. I mean, what are you waiting for? Why are you not doing this? And people just, it's still a very difficult uphill climb sometimes.
When you said jump now, I had a vision of being on top of a really tall building. There's a fire or something, and the fire guy's got the big trampoline type thing held out for you to jump into, and you hesitate, and then by the time you jump, they've moved it. I think he's right. I think you got to jump first, look later. But so good stuff. But Kenny, we're kind of getting up against it time wise. Our last post of the week is great news. We had a take of Siemens, who is really getting more and more distributor friendly, meaning they've been a prolific company for years, but they primarily went direct. All their DDC stuff still goes through the Siemens branches, but they're opening up more and more products through distributors like DMS Controls Group, Stromquist, and our friends at cgnacontrols.net. Really exciting that they're opening up their sensor line that goes with their Apogee system. And you can look at the video. You see these things everywhere. Virtually any building there's Siemens in, you see these communicating sensors. They're now available through distributors now. And again, you can find your local distributor, cgnacontrols.net. So that's a really big piece there. So customers, users out there can have more options with that. I know we got a bunch of them in stock now. I know you do too. So
well, you're right. There's been a markedly noticeable change of business models and approaches by Siemens. Like you said, to avail this once proprietary sensor line to us through distribution, I think kind of previews that you've got some major, reconfiguring of their business relationships with distributors. In other words, Siemens, I lived in Germany 9 years, and it's one of the most recognized brand names in the world, up there with Coke, I don't know, 18th, I think it is. I've heard that recently, but so they're very careful and very concerned about their brand reputation and making sure that, Siemens doesn't want to have things sold that don't work or people that sell them that don't know how they work. So once they've kind of gotten confidence in the ability to sell more of their commercial components, more of their important controls, and as they decide to make more and more releases of this product portfolio, you're going to see Siemens take on a bigger, kind of like a second horse in the race through distribution that they did, but they didn't do it with real commitment. And if they do make that real commitment, watch out.
I agree, Kenny Smyers. I agree. Okay, buddy, we are up against it. Be sure to check Ken's event calendar out. He posts those. So any events that are coming up, Kenny is doing a great job of keeping those posted. So every week we'll have sort of an update on that. With that, Kenny Smyers, I got to hit it. I know you do too. I hope everybody has a great week. We appreciate you tuning in. I'm Eric Stromquist. He is Kenny Smyers, the man, the myth, the legend. Remember, stay in control.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, Kenny Smyers.